Okay. Today, my guest is Professor Desislava Dikova. I will keep my introduction short to maximize our time with her. In the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about Desislava as a person. Professor Dikova is a thought leader and an esteemed scholar, and finally is a mentor to many PhD students and junior faculty. For the sake of time, I'll skip many of her accomplishments and give you a very quick snapshot. Professor Dikova is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of East-West Business. She serves on the boards of or at various editorial positions in Journal of International Business Studies, International Business Review, Thunderbird International Business Review, Organization Studies, Journal of Management Studies, and others. She received the Woman in AIB, the WAIB Emerald Award, for a highly commended paper in 2009. She was nominated for the AIB Best Paper Award, and she was the AOM's International Management Division Best Paper finalist in 2006 and 2008. Her research focuses on competitive behavior of firms with respect to types of innovation investments and their cross-border M&A activities. Thank you, Desislava, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Perfect. So the first question always is, what did you want to become when you were a child?
I wanted to be a basketball player. I was really in love with the game. I started playing when I was 12, and I was really dedicated. I was considering a career in sports. I wanted to be a professional athlete. Of course, I grew up in Bulgaria where that wouldn't have been the right choice. And I have to say my parents were not very thrilled with my ambition to become an athlete, a professional athlete. They thought that I should pick a more intellectual direction for development. So I still love the game. I did not become a professional basketball player.
So how did you choose academia, and how did you choose IB in particular?
Well, I made that decision while I was working for the European Commission. After my master's degree in international relations, international and European relations in Amsterdam, University of Amsterdam, I applied for an internship with European Commission. I was working for DG Regional Development for about half a year. And there I was exposed to the power of pan-European institutions in determining how money is invested, how European money is invested in large infrastructure projects. And seeing how that part works, the part that institutions play in massive institutional investments, let's say, massive government and regional government investments in large projects. I wanted to find out the side of individual business. How does business manage institutional burdens or institutional constraints, and what role institutions, national and European and international, played in directing business behavior or constraining business behavior. So I would say that interest was born in Brussels during this internship with the European Commission.
Do you ever think about what would happen if you stayed with the EU and not went into academia? Did you ever think about what's the alternative?
No, because I really recognize that this is not the career I wanted to pursue. This was very instrumental. That period that I spent in Brussels was very instrumental. I recognized that this is not what I wanted to do. I wanted a little more freedom to take my intellectual, let's say, ambition and drive and talent in the direction I wanted.
Desislava, something that's not on your CV, something that the audience will find interesting about you.
I think what's not on my CV is my love for sports. I'm a fanatic sports person. I engage in a lot of sports activities, and this is what keeps me balanced. We do a lot of our work in a static manner. We sit down, we type on our keyboards, and in order to stay healthy and productive, I do a lot of sports. I bike long distance, I like to row, I run, I do CrossFit, I do a lot of activities that actually make me very happy. Perfect.
Regrets, have you got any?
Sorry?
Regrets? Have you got any regrets?
Regrets. I wish I visited more universities as a fellow. I didn't get the chance to do so because I was a single parent raising a child on my own in foreign countries. So I wish I could have done that more than what I was able to.
Other than sports, what are you passionate about?
I didn't hear that the connection was wrong.
Other than sports, what are you passionate about?
What I'm really passionate about is giving back to our academic community for the time being. I was incredibly lucky to be supported during my PhD years. I had the best supervisor. I had the possibility to attend conferences where I could meet colleagues who were willing to read my work and support my research. And so for me, what I'm really passionate about is giving back. And I think this is the reason why I'm involved with so many journals. I'm on numerous editorial boards. I'm associate editor with 2 journals, apart from a Journal of East-West Business, where I'm editor-in-chief. So I do a lot of this work simply because I really believe in giving back, in serving the community in this fashion, and supporting authors who want to be given a chance to see their work published and to help them get the best result.
And who was your advisor?
Adam von Wittgenstein was my PhD supervisor. I owe him a lot. I learned so much under his supervision. And this is what I always wanted to do for my PhD students, to be the best supervisor I can be, just the way I had the best supervisor in my PhD years.
Perfect. Now, let's switch to research segment. I always ask this question about person stranded in a small village. The car breaks down. You're among locals, and they are curious about you. But the idea is, how do you explain your research to people who don't read your material regularly? And how do you explain why your research is important?
Well, I can only explain it by asking people to imagine how would they approach the decision-making process if they would be in charge of a company, either in the service industry or any manufacturing industry. If they are in charge of that company and they decide to internationalize, to move their business across national borders and grow their company this way, how would they decide where to go, how to establish their presence, whether they would start from scratch or whether they would acquire a company? How would they organize themselves once they have more than one location? And so the decisions that a manager takes, internationalizing, are critical. And that is why this type of research is important. And I think everybody can associate with these questions. How do I grow my business if I want to become present in other locations than my home market?
Mm-hmm. What are some of the omitted variables in IB research, or some of the understudied areas in IB?
I think what is becoming a little more prominent in the past few years is the micro foundations of international business. I think traditionally we have looked at firms, at organizations as these entities that take logical decisions. And we tend to ignore the fact that behind all these organizations are human beings who will be driven sometimes by emotions, sometimes by gut feeling, sometimes will not take logical decisions. Mm-hmm. Of course, there is research focused on managers and top management team, utilizing operational theory, etc. But the micro foundations of international business is yet to become more prominent and take a more central stage. And why I think this is important is because understanding the mechanism of an individual decision-making, rather than considering it being taken at a company level, is important. And I think this is one of the omitted variables, which makes research difficult because multi-level research is difficult. But yes, I would say micro foundational variables.
I mean, if you meet a PhD student and he or she is looking for a great topic, what's one question that you would say, why don't you think about this question and spend your next 4 years on it? What would be a question like that?
That would be very difficult. I mean, I would not push them into any direction, but I think what is a responsibility of every individual on the planet is sustainability. I think there is no more possibility to postpone the importance of sustainable development if we want to have a planet for our children. So I would say integrating the SDG goals into research could be meaningful, and not so much what these SDG goals mean for which industry and which organization, but what is the impact on society? Are we really embracing the SDG goals as we should? In the sense of, are we really having, with our actions, impact on society? So I would say sustainability would be of critical importance in the near future.
Beautiful, thank you. And I mean, you're in the middle of Europe. I'm asking this question about what people think is going to be in the next 5 to 10 years on the IB agenda about nationalism versus globalization. And some people are weighing heavy on globalization is going to come back again. Nationalism is going to be forgotten. And some people are on just the opposite. They are saying, well, it's actually going to be more nationalism and populism. What do you say? What's your take on it?
I mean, it's a continuum, isn't it? And the moment we push too much into one direction, the pendulum swings back into the other. And I think we will be constantly between these two extremes, nationalism versus globalization and global economy and more integration. I think balanced approach is key, maybe, because extremes are never good. And with the current global pandemic, maybe there is a little pushback towards more nationalism, but I don't think that's the future, because the world has benefited from openness, from integration, from trade liberalization, and I cannot imagine going back centuries in time and having nationalist and populist rules and mentality being in the focus of human development. It just is infathomable for me.
Okay. About the evolution of IB scholarship, what can you say about how it was in the past and how is it evolving, or what is it evolving into now?
I mean, I probably should have a little more tenure to have such an overview of what was it in the past and how I see it in the future. I think the future is more cross-disciplinary research. I think reaching out to other domains and thinking outside the box would be the future of IB. IB is cross-disciplinary by default. And so I see this as a natural future development. Mm.
And what is one research area in IB that is overly studied and no longer fruitful, in your opinion?
Oh, my research, the way with the research I started with, entry modes, this is no longer exciting for anyone. So there are a few fields like entry modes that are no longer exciting to do research because we know so much about it. So this is just something that comes to my mind simply because it's one of my fields. But I'm sure there are others that have received so much attention that there is not much we can add unless we really approach it completely differently. For example, entry mode research have not seen much micro foundation approach to it, so maybe there is a possibility to contribution this way.
Desislava, let's switch to advice and mentoring. What is one thing or a few things that you wish you would have known when you were starting out? It would save you time, it would save you a lot of pain and agony. What is something that you wish you would have known?
I really received the best guidance I could. So I knew everything I should know. I consider myself very successful in academia simply because I really had the best start, thanks to Arjen. So there is nothing I wish I knew. I think I knew all I needed to know, and I was guided in the best possible way.
Perfect. Well, what was the best advice you received then?
The best advice I received was building my network, going to conferences, talking to people, sharing my ideas, and trying to collaborate on numerous projects. So I think the value of network is one of the best assets that I have, one of the best advices. And later on, I discovered that this is one of the best assets one can have.
I mean, you're seeing many PhD students in conferences. What are some of the common mistakes that you see young scholars or PhD students make? Things to avoid, things to do, things not to do.
I mean, most PhD students are focused on the right things. How do I get my next job, right? Academia is not an easy career. And I think being focused on publications and meaningful contribution would be the best advice I would give. I cannot say I've seen mistakes in PhD students. I've seen talented students at every conference with brilliant ideas and great execution on these ideas. So I'm quite hopeful. I think there is a lot of talent, and I'm happy to see that at every AIB conference.
And are you enjoying these online conferences now?
To be honest, not so much. I miss the in-person interaction. This is, for me, just a temporary solution because we have to keep meeting somehow. But I look forward to the time when I will be in one room with my colleagues and can talk to them in person. That nothing can replace that. I do not believe in virtual reality. To me, this is really just a temporary solution.
What is one question I should have asked you but haven't?
The one question about, can you repeat the question one more time?
What is one question I should have asked you but haven't?
Oh, me, okay. I don't know, maybe, does academia make me happy? You know, I think happiness is important. If we're not happy, we won't be able to be productive or creative. So I think a question about happiness would be important.
Okay, let's talk about happiness. How do you define it? How do you attain it?
Happiness to me is the willingness to get out of bed and get on with your day with a smile. Happiness is, you know, going to bed and feeling satisfied, and really convinced that the day was not wasted, that it's not a mundane activity what that day produced. And I think academia can make many people happy. It did make me happy. I had other jobs before academia. I did not go into academia right after my master's degree and then PhD. To me, it was really a conscious choice. So yes, academia made me happy.
What was the worst job you had?
The worst job?
Mm.
You know, I regret not having some jobs. I think all my jobs were great. They taught me a great deal about myself and the world around me. So none of my jobs were bad. I had a job as assistant during my early years before university. Right after high school, I was an assistant in an exporting company. That was great. I learned a lot. I worked at the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry in Bulgaria. I learned a lot because I was a part of a special program created for the negotiation period of before joining European Union. So I learned so much in all my jobs. What I regret not having as a job is a waitress. I always wanted to be a waitress. Okay. And I never had the chance. And this is my only regret, that I never got the chance to be a waitress. I think this is a perfect way to learn about human nature. And you know what it means to satisfy basic needs, hunger, and bringing food to someone who needs that nutrient, and behaving differently and interacting with individuals. I would have loved to experience that.
Well, it's if you do an embedded design, maybe do some on-site data collection. Of course, why not? Well, we have to wait for the pandemic to be over. But Desislava, thank you so much for your time for this very interesting interview. I learned a lot. I'm sure the audience will agree with me. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.